Run home as soon as a car drives by towards you. By you/Tamzarian. Hi, this is my first time sharing something here. I saw videos on YouTube about this subreddit, and I wanted to share a story that happened to me a few years ago during the summer after my first year of high school. It's a story about assault, but the events goes way beyond that, so I figured out that it may have its place here. And sorry in advance if there are any mistakes, because English is my second language. It was in early July of 2015. I did go to a party organized by one of my classmates who lived in a rural town. During the party, I smoked a lot and drank some snaps that I made with peers. My friends seemed to enjoy it quite a lot, so we were really wasted. At around 3 a.m., a lot of the people began to go to sleep in tents, and I didn't have one and nobody to share with me. So after some boring time, I decided to go back to my place, which was quite far, like an hour and 30 minutes of walking. I did walk for 15 minutes in the dark on an unfrequented county road with a cool wind and nice temperature. You know, that's kind of the moment where you're just chilling after a party and enjoying the walk. But a car came along. It was red, so I did see it from a certain distance despite the darkness around me. Confident like a teenager can be while being wasted, I continued to move forward. Nevertheless, the driver saw me and sped up to reach me, and within a few seconds, 2 guys got out of the red car and began to assault me. I did my best fighting back, kicking one in the head and pushing the other one in a small ditch, which was along the road. But then the first one pushed me in it too, and we continued to fight for a few minutes. At that time, I had been practicing martial arts for 3 years, but dropped when I made it to high school. With the adrenaline, I didn't feel the pain of their attacks, so I did fight back pretty well. And there was no clear winner. God, I wish I didn't enjoy it, and I wish I did run as soon as the fight began, and I wish that I wasn't that reckless, cocky, and stupid at the same time. After several minutes, another guy opened the right back door of the red car and came out. I did see him from the corner of my eye, but I was brought back to my current opponents. This guy approached and he pulled out a gun aiming at me with a strange hand, like his skin had some white stains on it. When I saw it, everything stopped around me and my ears began to be filled with ultrasounds covering the words of these guys. Next thing I know, one of the first 2 guys grabbed my arms and locked it behind my back, while the second one began to beat me up. He hit me mostly in the face because he was mad that I didn't surrender before. The third one took my bag and searched what was in it. Then after taking out the spare t-shirt and some personal stuff, he yelled and they stopped the beating. Indeed, they were still locking me out and put my head on the ground, and the third one frisked my pockets and took my phone. He asked me, "Do you have any drugs on you? Weed, cocaine?" I answered that I finished it at the party where I was before, and he told the 2 guys to let me go. While I was getting up, the guys were discussing about me and what to do next. Suddenly, the third one looked at me and asked, "So, where's this party you were talking about, Joseph?" I didn't have any identifying papers or wallet on me. It was literally impossible that he discovered my name with the stuff that he stole in my bag. I didn't even write my name on the label of my t-shirt. I already felt defeated and scared as hell, but at this moment, I really began to become a lunatic. I didn't answer because I couldn't contain my emotions about this. He asked me again, but I was terrified. I couldn't stare back at him, even if I was a pretty sick kid at these times. I have never been in a worse situation than this. As I looked at the ground, he saw my shoes and told me, "Cool Air Max, give it to me." I didn't react again, so he approached and stooped to take it as he saw that I couldn't move a muscle. But this time, I was clearly gonna make a move. That was the moment to reverse the odds as he stooped and I waited, and then I hit him violently in the face with my knee and started to run faster than ever, dodging his mates. Unfortunately, I left my stuff behind, but I was really too scared to go back. But I did look back fearing that they may be pursuing me. But all I saw was these 3 guys staring at me, and the third one laughing really loudly and insulting me from where he stood. To be clear, I don't live in a country where there's no gun control. There's a lot of control, but a lot of people can get guns with trafficking. That wasn't the first time that I saw a gun. I got the opportunity to use some a few times with my grandfather, so I didn't know the consequences, and I didn't underestimate the risk. Nevertheless, the story doesn't end here awfully. After fleeing in the fields, I got back to the party, and some of the awake remaining people tried to help me. I wasn't talking or answering any questions. I did say that 2 guys beat me up, but I was too scared to tell about the third one because he had a gun. But above all, he knew my name. After a few traumatic hours, I called my mom with the phone of the girl who took care of me, and she went to the place of the party to take me home. I didn't tell her the truth too, even if I trust her most than everyone, because I knew that she was gonna freak out. And that wasn't a really good period since I already had bad experiences with police, and that she was already exasperated by me. She took me to the police station, and I told them the same thing, and I clearly saw some police officers laughing at me. After a week, I decided to go back to a party that was not really far from home, like a 15-minute walk. I realized that every time I heard a car, I tried to hide to avoid it. Sometimes, when a car stopped and stood in one place, I preferred to make a detour. These crazy trauma reflexes lasted 2 years. 2 years fearing that I may meet this man again. As I told earlier, I filed a complaint at the police station, but there was clearly no hope to find them. Until they called me back, and it was in September of 2017. I drove to the police station and they set me up in a room. I already got my driver's license, and that's definitely better than walking an hour and 30 minutes during the night, as you can relate now. They asked me about what happened 2 years earlier, and I did tell the same story that I told everyone, and they showed me some pictures. These were kind of mugshots. I couldn't tell if I recognized them because their faces were masked at that time. But then, I had a strange vibe with one of the pictures. One got strange white stains. While thinking and trying to remember the scenes, I clearly see again the moment of the arrival of this guy, and that his hand caught my attention when he pulled out the gun. Even if I didn't tell the truth before, I wanted to know what they found to ask me to come up here, so I told them that this guy seemed familiar, and I asked if I was right. After this recognition, the police officers seemed to be a little uncomfortable. One got out of the room, and the other stood in silence. After a few seconds, he got back with a file, and without showing it, he began to leaf through it and started talking. And that moment has really chilled my blood. Ubis and Tana is suspected for the case of 2 homicides. The 2 corpses were found in a private forest by an individual. The 2 victims were already known by the law enforcement units, and their ties to Ubis and Tana makes him the prime suspect. The police officers carried out a search after obtaining the authorization of the prosecutor. Bullet cartridges and a small quantity of drugs were found, but the apartment seems to have been emptied before the visit. I couldn't believe it. This was going too far for me. I asked to see some photos from the file, saying that it would likely help them. I wasn't sure what they could show me due to the instruction secret, but they seemed to seek for any evidences that they could get. They showed me the photos of the house search, and it seemed pretty gross. Mole and stuff. It really looked like a crackhead spot. And as I was looking at the pictures, I saw something that I didn't want to see. They took a picture of the drugs that they found, and the first picture shows the hand of a police officer holding a bag filled with drugs. A blue bag. A blue Herschel bag. Yeah, that was pretty fucked up. I couldn't contain myself and told them that it was probably my bag on the picture. Those backpacks weren't common in my country, so I figured that it was worth to tell the police officers. Slapped and Almost Stabbed by u/Dungeonkeeper 420. When I was much younger, I used to go out and party almost every night. I couldn't stand staying at home, so being out of town felt good, especially with friends. We would go bar hopping, and one of the pubs that we frequented was called Popin. We would get wasted as the alcohol here is dirt cheap due to the island being duty-free. So imagine being teenagers and being wasted most of the time. Not a good combination, and bad things are bound to happen. I grew up on this island and I know many of the townsfolk here. It's a relatively safe place to be, since it's just a small island. You could literally leave your car doors unlocked and no one would steal your car. Hence, there's nowhere to run, and the only way out of the island is either by flight, speedboat, or a ro-ro ferry. So, back to the story. I was out one night with my buddies as usual, having some drinks at a local pub. We were having a great time listening to a live band that was playing at that time. It was crowded inside and people were drinking and dancing. Me and my friends were too. My friend's name is Steve. See, Steve and I were close, and I knew him since he was in high school, and at that time, I was in my early 20s. We were good friends, and while we were in the pub, suddenly, he called me to go outside and accompany him to go and see someone. Curiously, I followed him outside, and when I asked him, he just told me to back him up, and that the guy we were gonna meet was apparently dating Steve's younger sister. And Steve didn't like that one bit, since his sister was still in high school. So, when he came, Steve warned him not to disturb his sister and to stay away from her, which I thought was fair. Then, Being the hero wannabe, I butted in and started telling him the same thing. And he wasn't taking it one bit from me and got really pissed instead. He said that I was going to regret opening my mouth and then just walked off. He went back inside and I started calling friends, telling them that a fight was going to go down, as I knew that guy was going to call his friends as well. And about 15 minutes passed, and I got a call out, and this guy had brought about 15 to 20 guys, and they surrounded me and Steve. Then, this guy's uncle pulled me aside and slapped me, saying that I was a dead man. I tried to fight back, but then he did something that really shook me up. He brandished an army knife from his back jeans. The kind that had those teeth-like texture at the back end of the blade. The kind that could literally be used to pull your guts inside out. Yeah, it was that kind of knife. And I froze. I didn't know what to do, as he was holding onto my t-shirt with one hand and had a knife on the other. Immediately, I thought to myself, oh shit, I'm gonna get stabbed and probably killed tonight. So much was racing through my mind and I couldn't think. According to Steve, most of these guys had weapons on them. One of them even broke beer bottles and was holding up the sharp broken glass, ready to hurt us. But then out of nowhere, my brother-in-law came screaming, saying that he was a cop and that backup was coming, and if they didn't settle it there and then. My brother-in-law is a big guy and stands at almost 6 feet tall, so I knew that they would believe that he was a cop and started to settle down. The guy that was dating Steve's sister still wasn't satisfied and wanted to fight me one-on-one. At first I denied him, but after he kept asking, I just said yes. Luckily, he didn't go through with it and just settled with a handshake. He told me not to go after his uncle and wanted to really settle. I agreed, since this was such a small island and you would meet the same people all the time. I went home after that, as I had had enough for the night, and that the incident shook the alcohol out of me and definitely sobered me up. I still saw that guy and his knife-wielding uncle a couple more times when I was out in town, but we just nodded to each other and never had problems with one another ever since. So that's my story of the time that I almost got stabbed and probably killed by some random guy's uncle just for butting in their conversation, which was none of my business in the first place. And that's the reason why I no longer favor going out to drink till you can't think straight. It's better to stick to herbs instead and just chill at home. The Man in the Van by u/Toxixa. This happened a few months ago to my friends and I. We are university students in Cape Town, South Africa. So, when we aren't trying to just get through the semester, we like to let our habits get the better of us and go out for drinks. On this night, we had just finished what felt like an extra long day at university and decided to head to a bar about 5 minutes from campus for some much-needed stress relief. The evening was going well, although a bit slow. It was enjoyable, with everyone having a drink and getting a bit restless. So, me being on the more outgoing ones in the group, I suggested that we head to a pool bar not far from where we were. Everyone agrees and we get our stuff to go. We all jump in my car and we get to the bar, but being a Thursday night, parking was scarce. I finally managed to find a spot about a block away from the bar, but it was in a secluded side street. I should also mention that this bar is in one of the sketchier parts of town, but is normally quite safe due to the amount of nightlife associated with being so close to a university. We walked to a bar and no one really felt uneasy, nor did anything happen to make us feel that way, which was quite surprising. After a few hours of some pool and just relaxing, we decided that it was time to grab dinner before any of the restaurants close, as being in South Africa means that most restaurants, even the fast food shops, close early at around 7 to 8 p.m. to comply with a curfew. We decided to stop at the pizza place below the bar to grab some food before we all decided what the plan for the end of the night was. So, because our group was so large and the pizza place being so small, we decided to have those getting food go inside while the others who didn't would wait outside on the street. This was an easy decision as the pizza place had a massive open window with built-on counters so we could still all talk to each other. Now, this is where things started getting a little weird. While we were waiting for our friends inside the pizza place to come out, this massive white van pulls up past us and stops. The driver wasn't an intimidating looking dude. He was skinny, looked to be about average height with shoulder-long blonde hair. A pretty standard looking dude for the kind of area we were in. He calls me and asks if I think that his van could fit in the parking spot just behind him. For perspective, this parking spot could probably fit like a small hatchback, maybe. This dude is driving a full long-size panel van, and this makes me kind of uneasy, as I thought that as a driver of a car, you should know where your car can definitely not fit, and this was one of them. I explained to him that I didn't think it was even worth attempting. He responds telling me that he has faith in his ability and that I should come stand behind the van and direct him in. This gives me major red flags, and after a few back and forth, he just pulls the emergency brake up and sits and stares at my friends and I for what felt like eternity. He then thanked us and drove off. This sparks my friends to come out of the pizza place as they just saw what happened and were very confused. We all are kind of weirded out but think nothing of it, and everyone eats their pizza, and we try to decide what the plan is for the last hour or two before our curfew cuts things short. Most of us decide that this is where the night is gonna end, as we're all kind of weirded out by the guy in the van. A few others decided they were going to stay and just Uber home a little later in the evening. With our group number cut down to 4, we decided to walk back to the car and just head home. When we left the pizza place, a homeless person called us and was insisting we had nothing to worry about with the guy in the van, which didn't help with anyone's nerves. We then decided to head to the car, but as soon as we turned the corner to approach the side of the street where the car was parked, we see the van man again. This time, not quite as happy as he seemed in his encounter earlier. I made a cheeky comment about him finally finding a parking spot that he could fit in while we were walking past each other, and he stared at my friends and I, not breaking eye contact even when we passed him. I turned around to see if he was still looking. He was, but as we turned the corner of the side street with a car, I saw it, and my heart sank. The van horribly parked half on and half off the sidewalk, back door slightly open. And upon seeing this, I turn around and see Van Man is now walking towards us. But he said something that confused me at first, but immediately made sense after. He said, "Hey, please, just watch my car." Which confused me. But when he said that, 4 men sat up from leaning on the wall next to it and began following us. My friends and I were slightly ahead of them, so we were trying to discuss the game plan. Because it was obvious, if we did nothing, something horrible was going to happen. My friends start walking faster, and I remain at the same speed, frantically searching my pockets for my car keys. All the while, shouting at my friends to wait up and asking what their rush was. All in hopes that the guy behind us, who were gaining on us, were oblivious to us knowing that they had sinister intentions. And as soon as the car came into view, we booked it, jumped in and drove away, but we were only seconds from not being that lucky. After locking the car doors, I saw the men surrounding the car. I managed to get us out, and looking back in the mirror, I saw a 5th man by the van at the bottom of the street. I still have no idea what their intentions were that night, if it was to rob us or just beat us up, or worse. I don't really like to think about how lucky we were that night. I ask that when you're out, no matter how innocent an interaction with someone can seem, always pay attention to the little things. So, to the man in the van my friends and I saw that night, can we please not meet again? Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.